Origins of the concept of sustainability come from the work of Hans Karl von Carlowitz. His basic idea is that only as much wood should be felled as can grow back in type and quantity through plant reforestation, sowing and planting. So why is this important? The forest must be given the opportunity to regenerate, right? Otherwise, in the long term, there would be no more wood available as material. After a leap in time, an exciting and I personally think important report, The Limits of Growth, was written in the 1970s. This report states that if growth remains unchanged, the limits of growth on Earth will be reached by 2072, so quite early, which would lead to a sudden and uncontrollable decline in both population and industrial capacity. In the 80s, the foundation of the World Commission on Environment and Development, abbreviated with WCED, was established. They were concerned with how it should work when developing countries come up to the resource consumption of industrialized countries. So, a quite tricky thought. Therefore, they put a strong focus on sustainable development in their report and thus put a strong international influence on the international debate about development and environmental policy. In order to be able to reconcile different sustainability approaches, interdisciplinary approaches must be chosen. Information systems, in the following abbreviated with IS, can be used to support sustainable development and have the potential to accelerate. Sustainability is a guiding principle traditionally characterized by 3 dimensions. This multidimensionality is often summarized as the so-called 3 pillars of sustainability, which describes the 3 equally important dimensions of ecological functionality, economic efficiency, and social responsibility. In this context, ecology, social affairs, and economy are to be understood as a unity in order to successfully shape political and, of course, economic action. Accordingly, it is not a matter of bringing together 3 pillars that stand side by side, but of developing a 3-dimensional perspective. The interpretation of the 3-pillar model is very diverse in scientific literature and of course in practice, but let's give it a try here. So first, the ecological dimension of sustainability focuses on the consequences of human use of nature. Here, the preservation of substance, the defense of nature, the protection of its diverse functions are seen as the main goal. Second, the social dimension of sustainability is on one hand more elusive than the other dimensions and on the other hand indispensable for sustainable development. Here the principle of intergenerational justice is central. Basic social goods such as facilities for health and education, a basic supply of food, housing and clothing, as well as human rights must be provided permanently and distributed fairly. An institutional rethink is essential. Innovations must be supported and implemented. The aim is not only to maintain, but rather to ensure the developmental and future viability of societies and associated social systems. Finally, the economic dimension of sustainability is concerned with maintaining the material satisfaction of society's needs in terms of comprehensive welfare. The desire for economic growth, an important economic goal, may diminish if, for example, environmental pressures and thus the costs and risks associated with growth increase. Economic growth thus has an impact on the other 2 dimensions, of course. This can be said about the 3 pillars. The more current and modern understanding of sustainability refers to the Sustainable Development Goals, also depicted at this slide. Transforming the world is the vision under which the United Nations released this agenda on global development. The agenda comprises 17 Sustainable Development Goals, forming a plan of action for people, planet, and prosperity. All United Member States should collaborate to achieve these goals. To be a viable structure that has sufficient regenerative reserves for the future, a minimum of each of the 3 pillars of sustainability must be fulfilled. If that minimum is fulfilled, a focus on one goal is allowed, so not every one of the pillars need to be equally strong. But still, should a maximization of one of the sustainability goals in form of either or not be considered, because it would eventually lead to the neglect of the other pillars and thus to a descent under the minimum fulfillment. Instead, a balance should be aimed at. So let me give you an example. We will take a look at an airport. A manager's bonus at the airport is based on the achievement of the following targets: 70% achievement of economic goals, 10% environmental sustainability, such as carbon emissions or the reduction of carbon emissions, of course, 10% employee satisfaction, and 10% customer satisfaction. Here can be seen that the airport sets the focus of sustainable goals on the economic pillar. Still, the other 2 parts of the sustainable development are being taken into account. Not more may be consumed that can be regrown, regenerated, and made available again in the future. The consumption includes a variety of resources such as water, oil, metals, human life, atmosphere, education, and money. According to the United Nations report, sustainable development is development that meets the need of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. So the needs of our children should not be compromised. Sustainability can be considered on many levels. First, there is the individual consumer or citizen that can be focused while discussing sustainability issues. Second, sustainability can be connected to the goals, processes, and behaviors of organizations and companies. Third, one can focus on the overall sustainability goals and development of society and politics. Translated from Latin, the word sustain means to uphold, to carry, to preserve, or to retain. Sustainable can also mean long-lasting, such as sustainably disrupted relationships, sustainable stain removal, etc. In this lecture, we will interpret sustainability as sustainable structures that have sufficient regenerative reserves for the future. Now these definitions can be expanded to include the word smart, which adds the use of information systems and, of course, advanced technologies to the model, control and improve sustainable approaches. Information systems which support sustainable development have a potential to accelerate sustainable development. Information systems for environmental sustainability, or abbreviated with IS for sustainability, was initially defined by 2 researchers, namely Melville and Watson, in 2010 and of course in the ongoing years. The first author defined IS for environmental sustainability as IS-enabled practices and processes improving environmental and economic performance. This highlights, in my perspective, that an IS sustainability perspective includes economic thinking. The strand is often referred to as green IS, so green information systems, although it also comprises the concept of green IT, meaning green information technology. Green IS and green IT have both been leveraged to support sustainable development. However, related literature clearly distinguishes between greener S and greener T. Greener S focus on individuals, groups, organizations, and societies' information systems usage to support environmentally sustainable practices. Greener S, so green information systems, are defined as an incorporating set of people, processes, software, and information technologies to support individual, organizational, or societal goals. An objective of Greener S is its support of pro-environmental behaviors and actions on an individual, organizational, and societal level. Differently, Green IT, as green information technology, refers to hardware and infrastructures that can be better managed and designed from an environmental perspective. Thus, Green IT directly contributes to the reduction of negative impacts on the environment. Information and communication technologies, abbreviated with ICT, for development, abbreviated with 4D, for short, summarizes research linking the potentials of information and communication technology to international and societal development goals, such as those of the United Nations we just talked about. Accordingly, the strand is dedicated to the broad and impassionate question of whether information system scholars should build a better world or can build a better world with information and communication technologies. To date, ICT4D is a key focus of governmental and non-governmental organizations, and of course for scientific research scholars who seek to improve the life, health, and well-being of citizens. Here we further focus on a term and, on a meaning of sustainability. The literal meaning of the word sustainability is defined as the principle according to which